Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general laws, chapter 38, section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Police and Municipal Campus Building Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. All meetings and hearings listed in the agenda will also be done so through remote participation. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public or parties with the right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at www.shrewsburyma.gov/coronavirus. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen or watch the meeting may do so by dialing 1-662-222-1757 and entering the following PIN 892-528-496 and the pound sign. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible. As a preliminary matter, this is Kevin Mizikar, Town Manager. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipating on the agenda are present and can hear me. All members, when I call your name, please unmute yourself and respond in the affirmative. Morris DiPaolo?
Yes.
Kristen Lass?
Here.
Keith Baldinger?
Here.
Holly Luke?
Here.
Kevin Anderson?
Here.
Patrick Collins?
Here.
Justine Snyder?
Present.
Patrick Pitney?
Here.
Joseph Morrow. Has Mr. Morrow joined us yet? Mr. Morrow, by chance, if your phone number is a 917 number, we do see you. In order to unmute yourself, you'd have to press star and then 6 on your phone. Could you please try that?
The 917 number is not Joseph Morrow. It's just an observer. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I believe Joe just joined.
Good evening, Mr. Morrow. How are you? Let's see.
Kevin, it looks like he's muted.
Okay. Mr. Morrow, this is Town Manager Kevin Mizikar. Are you able to unmute yourself? Okay. We'll proceed at this time. If you're on a phone, you can press star 6 to unmute. And if you're on your PC, hover near the bottom of the screen and you're able to unmute yourself. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Angela Snell.
Here.
Alex Martinez.
Here.
Anticipated on the speakers on the agenda this evening, please respond in the affirmative. Jeff McElravy, Tecton Architects.
Yeah.
Matt Salad, Tecton Architects.
Here.
Neil Joyce, Construction Monitoring Services Incorporated.
Here.
So good evening. This is an open meeting of the Police and Municipal Campus Building Committee. It is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020 due to the current state of the emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. This order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. To ensure public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Police and Municipal Campus Building Committee is convening by Google Hangout as posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. For Google Hangout meetings, please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and that to take care not to share your screen or computer unless asked to do so by the chairperson or staff person. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. I'll establish some meeting ground rules. We're now turning to the first item of the agenda, but before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. Up until the appointment of a chairperson, I, Kevin Mizikar, will introduce each member of the board or staff who may have a lead role for a particular item or guest speaker associated with the item. And after they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the list of members first and then to staff members, inviting each by name to provide any comment or questions. The chairperson will call upon the members to offer a motion or a second. Please hold your comments until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your microphone or your phone when you're not speaking. Remember that unless a document is being shared, your camera feed is triggered by your speaking or background noise. To mute and unmute your telephone, dial *6. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For others in attendance that are expected to present, please hold until your name is called to present. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Remember that unless a document is being shared, your camera feed is triggered by your speaking or background noise. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call. So turning to the next item on the agenda, committee introductions. So this is the first meeting of the Police and Municipal Campus Building Committee. We see that all members are now present. And given the challenges with actually going around and doing introductions, I just want to acknowledge everyone for their service on the committee. And we will get into staff and consultant introductions in a minute. But without further ado, I think it's the appropriate time to take nominations for chairperson of the Police and Municipal Campus Building Committee. So I'll ask for a motion for nominations from any member of the committee.
Mr. Mizikar,
Mr. DiPaolo?
I'd like to nominate Pat Pitney for the chair of the building committee.
Okay, Mr. DiPaolo has nominated Mr. Pitney. Is there a second to his nomination?
I'll second the nomination. This is Patrick Collins.
Mr. Collins seconded. Are there any other nominations for chairperson of the committee? Hearing no other nominations brought forth and having a first and a second, I will take a roll call for the nomination of Mr. Patrick Pitney to the chairperson's position. Mr. DiPaolo?
Yes.
Ms. Loss?
Aye.
Mr. Baldinger?
Aye.
Ms. Luke?
Yes.
Lieutenant Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Aye.
Ms. Snyder?
Aye.
Mr. Pitney?
Yes.
Mr.
Thank you.
Morrow?
Aye.
Great. Without further ado, I will happily turn the microphone over to Mr. Pitney to move forward in the agenda, and we are on item 4. I do apologize, Mr. Pitney. There is the opportunity this evening, or we can do it at a future meeting, to for the nomination and consideration of a vice chairperson. So I don't know if the committee is ready to do that. Certainly not an obligation for this first meeting, but you can solicit nominations or elect to defer that to the next meeting.
Oh, I think it would make sense if we deferred that as we tried to get to know each other a little bit better. I don't know if there's anybody who may be interested. I would ask that anybody who may be interested in being vice chair reach out, because I'm just not sure who's out there. I just want to thank everybody for their support in this. It's certainly a surprise. I welcome the opportunity and the challenge, and I just thank you all for the confidence you have in me. I hope I do a good job, and I will do my best. I'll be learning as we go along. This is my first time on a building committee, but we're all in, as they say with COVID-19, we're all in this together. So we'll get through it. Mr. Mizikar, you mentioned that we're on item 4. Are we going to bypass item 2, the committee introductions? Because I'm not. Should we take 1 minute to introduce ourselves?
Absolutely. Yeah, certainly your call as the chair. We can certainly do that.
I would like to do that because I'm not familiar with everybody. So I'll start with myself. My name is Patrick Pitney. I've been in Shrewsbury for only 28 years, so I still consider myself a newcomer. I'm a town meeting member. I just spent 9 years on the finance committee, finishing up my term last week, and moved over to this. I'm the father of 3 children. Daughter is 25, twin boys who are just graduated from the high school and are hopefully off to college in a couple of minutes, or in a couple of months. No, not a couple of minutes. That would be nice. But that's pretty much who I am. And I look forward to getting to know everybody going forward. So why don't we, I'm just going to go down the list here that I have. I have Alex Martinez. I think we all know Alex, but Alex, why don't you just give us a 30-second gist?
Sure. So I am the administrative assistant in the town manager's office, and I will be assisting staffing this committee.
Thank you. And next I have Angela Snell.
Hi, I'm Angela Snell. I'm the superintendent of public facilities and parks, and I'm just here to support the committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Holly, I may not be saying this right, Lucht or Lucht?
It's Luke, like Luke, but that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. I am the Council on Aging Director, and I've been in Shrewsbury now since the first week of January, and it's been quite a ride so far. So I'm happy to be here.
Very good. Next we have Jeff McElvray. McElver, you say it for me, Jeff. I'm getting.
It's McElvray.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a principal with Tecton Architects, the firm that's doing some programming work and starting this process out with the town of Shrewsbury.
Okay. Next we have Joe Morrow.
Hi, I'm Joe Morrow. I've lived in Shrewsbury for just about 18, 19 years. I was a firefighter in the town of Southborough. I just retired last year as the chief. And I had gone through a pretty extensive public safety building committee and project with the town, and they just finished it last summer. So I'm kind of excited to jump in with you guys and help out here.
Welcome. Thank you. I have Justine Snyder.
Hi, good evening. My name is Justine Snyder. I have 2 children who have gone through the Shrewsbury public school system. I am I'm the wife of the late John Snyder. Many people knew him, who was like the owner of Mass Health and Fitness. I am a commercial realtor, and I also have served on the boards for the Army Corps of Engineers on redoing some of their facilities. So after being 25 years in Shrewsbury, I call this my home, and I love the school system, and I just want to give back. I feel very fortunate to be part of this group. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Next we have Keith Baldinger.
Hi, everyone. Keith Baldinger. I'm the Public Buildings Division Manager here in Shrewsbury. Been in this position for a little over 1.5 years. I'm also a 21-year resident of the town.
Thank you. Kevin Anderson?
Kevin Anderson, I'm a lieutenant on the police department. I've been employed by Shrewsbury for 26 years.
Thanks, Kevin. Kevin Mizikar.
Good,
Needs no introduction, but
good evening, everyone. I'm the town manager. I'm pleased to support this committee and look forward to helping out every way I can.
thanks, Kevin. And next we have Kristen Loss.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kristen Lass, the Assistant Town Manager. I'm the Town Manager's appointee to this committee. I've been with the Town of Shrewsbury for almost 10 years now, starting as the Town Planner, and has been in the Assistant Town Manager role for almost 5 years now. So happy to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. And I have a Matthew S. here. I don't know if that's a participant or if that's somebody listening in.
It's Matthew Salad. I'm a project architect with Tecton Architects, and appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you all tonight, and looking forward to moving forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. I'm sure we'll get more details from you as we move along here. We have Maurice DiPaolo. Mo, I think, again, no introduction necessary, but if you just give us 30 seconds.
Now, some people might not know me, Pat. Well, I'm chair of the Board of Selectmen at least until tomorrow night at 8 o'clock when we have our election. Hopefully, I'll be on the committee on Wednesday. I've been on the board for 27 years. I've lived in town for the better part of 60. Grew up here, and it's my second building committee. I was on the high school and the Oak Middle School high school building committee and the Oak Middle School renovation committee a few years ago. So I'm getting excited to get this going. It's the one building we haven't worked on since I've been on the board. So we got to get this done, guys.
Thanks, Bob. Next, we have Neil Joyce. Neil, are you there?
I am. Good evening. I have to say I probably have the worst internet connection on the group, but my name is Neil Joyce. I'll be acting on behalf of Construction Monitoring Services as your project director and your owner's project manager.
Very good. Thank you, Neil. And Patrick Collins.
Good evening, everyone. Patrick Collins, longtime Shrewsbury resident, graduate of Shrewsbury High School. I'm the assistant superintendent in the school department for finance and operations, and involved in a number of school building projects previously. So this is very interesting to me, and also currently serving on the Beal Building Committee. Thank you.
And I believe that's everybody that I have on my, as I'm thinking to myself, I think everybody knows everybody out there. So I'm going to put it out there. Is there anybody that has a nomination for vice chair? Anybody have any thoughts on that at this time, or would you rather wait? If there are any nominations out there, I'm willing to hear them now. Okay, then we'll leave it as, if anybody's interested, please reach out and let me know, and we will move forward on that at the next meeting, okay? So give it some thought, everybody. Which brings us to item number 4, consultant introductions. I don't know if we want to go more in depth on the consultants on this project as before we move to item 5. So why don't we take a moment with that, and I'm still familiarizing myself with everybody. Oh,
I know.
I am hoping
So, Mr. Pitney, if I can interject, so the architect and owner's project manager do have a presentation. If you wouldn't mind, since we did the preliminary introductions of the consultants, if we can move through items 5 and 6, which I'm happy to lead. And then I know the introductory slides for the presentation, which is item 7, will include a little more thorough introduction so the building committee can become accustomed to both the individuals and the firms that have been selected for this project. That'd be great. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd like, okay.
That sounds great.
So I just want to take the opportunity, given the varied experience of the committee. First and foremost, we're also happy to have you. Great set of credentials. Fortunate to have everyone's skill set and background, and that's what we look for whenever we build an ideal committee. And I think we found that in this one. So we encourage everyone to participate and provide your opinion. You know, unlike Mr. Morrow out there, maybe everyone doesn't have clear experience with public safety facilities and things like that. And certainly we'll be working on, you know, the police station and then 2 other buildings within the municipal campus at 100 Maple Avenue. So first and foremost, as the Board of Selectmen move forward to set this charge of the committee, that's a little bit unprecedented for the town of Shrewsbury. It's normally done by town meeting, but given the challenges of COVID-19 and the timing of this project and the critical nature of it, the Board of Selectmen decided to move forward and appoint the committee under the same form or charge that would have been presented through town meeting. So a building committee is the central hub of the building process and really takes a renovation or a new construction project forward from its, you know, some of the earliest stages of its feasibility study and conception, the whole way through the final punch list, closeout, and all the financial matters that happen. So this is certainly not a quick project. It will take several years to progress the whole way through the rest of the feasibility study. And should funding be approved into design and the full construction. So first and foremost, we only have funding for the feasibility study, which we're in, which should put us in a position to request the Board of Selectmen sponsor a warrant article to try to allocate more funding for a project. And there's a number of ways that we can do that. And we'll certainly work through that as it comes. A central piece of this project is the underpinning Massachusetts general laws that kind of guide us through this. So the public building process through Chapter 149, which governs vertical construction within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, requires that any project of a certain size that the town brings on an owner's project manager. You heard Mr. Joyce introduce himself earlier, and he represents the firm of Construction Monitoring Services, which we put out a competitive bid for last October and selected Neil and his firm because of their unique skill set within this type of work on municipal campuses and police buildings. And we're happy to have him. And they are under contract through the feasibility study. And again, if funding continues, likely through the rest of the entire project. And likewise, once we had the owner's project manager on board and Neil's and his firm's strength in consultation, we developed a formal competitive request for qualifications process for a designer or a project architects. And through that competitive process, we selected Tecton Architects, again, because of their unique situation and skill set with regards to police and municipal campus type building projects. So I'm very excited to be working with this very skilled team of Tecton and CMS. And they've been doing a lot of work, which we're going to get you up to speed on over the next few meetings. But we've left all the good stuff for you, and it's still to come. So we're still very, very early in the project, even though we've been working on this since last October. You know, certainly a lot of steps along the way, and we're finally coming forward with coming out of the background work that is needed for each and every department that operates from these buildings into more, I think, intriguing and exciting parts of the design process that they will lead us through. So I'll just quickly jump over to the role of the building committee, which is item 6. And the building committee's charge is to, you know, represent the community and provide your expertise, advice, and assistance in moving this project forward, helping us identify the appropriate characteristics and design features that will make our department successful in the operation of these facilities, and then right-sizing those buildings based on your knowledge and and of the community and the community's appetite to be able to take on an additional project and the debt that's associated with this. At this point, I don't see any other way. If this project's going to move forward, we would require a borrowing authorization. And it is a substantial project, and I hate to put a number on it in the first meeting, but it will be somewhere around $30 million, depending on the scope of the project that we actually move forward with. So the Buildings Committee's job is to help with the design, provide advice and assistance to this very skilled professional team. You are to rely upon staff to help guide your decision-making process, and we, the staff members who are both committee members and otherwise, will do everything that we can to put you in the best position to make those decisions. And then you will be the fiduciaries and oversee each dollar that's spent on this project from the rest of the way with these consultants, the whole way through the construction of the buildings, if we're fortunate to be able to do so. So, Mr. Pitney, that's kind of my high-level overview. I'm happy to answer any questions that we may have or that the committee may have. Otherwise, turn it back over to you for item 7 on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mizikar. That was a good overview and it was beneficial to me. I know that. Any questions for Mr. Mizikar at this point? I do not see any hands up at this point. Do I hear somebody in the background? I guess not. I'll get used to this format. May have been my own. May have been my kids. Yeah, it could have been mine too. So why don't we just move on to item number 7, presentation of the police station programming, design process, and campus layout concepts. And I assume that will be presented by CMS at this point and Tecton.
Matt, you gonna drive?
Yep. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen now, and both our presentation and CMS's introductions are incorporated into the same slides. Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Yes.
So just again, by way of introduction, my name is Neil Joyce. I am operating as the project director for the town of Shrewsbury. My firm is Construction Monitoring Services. We are located right in Marlborough, Massachusetts. We were founded in '92 and incorporated in '96 and have exclusively been operating as an OPM for the duration of our existence. We've successfully completed almost 70 projects across 53 communities in the Commonwealth. And in the last 5 years, we put 13 public safety buildings successfully online. And most importantly, we've had the pleasure of working with Matt and Jeff over the last 4 or 5 years and have completed, I think this will be our 5th project together over that time. And in terms of our pledge and commitment to the city and to the town, our commitment is to complete the project on time, on budget, and at the highest level of quality that's possible. In terms of just a brief bio, again, my credentials, as well as those of Kevin Griffin, who is acting as my senior project manager, Scott Loebker, who is providing a backup, if you will, on the project. And then our partner, my partner, Paul Griffin, who is our senior consultant and senior advisor, and also founder of the company. And I'd be happy to take any questions either online or offline, as the case may be. I know we're sort of under tight time this evening.
So my name is Matt Worthy again. I'm principal with Tecton Architects, and the other day we were looking at the people's anniversaries at work, and I had the misfortune of looking at mine and realizing that I'm coming on 36 years of practicing architecture, and that's a lot more than I thought it was. And 34 of those 36 years, I've been doing police stations and public safety buildings. I am a member of the International Association of Chiefs of Police Community Policing Committee, one of a few members of the IACP who's not a police officer, not a police chief, that serves on a committee, and I've been doing that for almost 20 years now. So there's a lot of background, a lot of information that I can bring as a resource to this committee as we help to make good decisions for the facilities in this project. Matt?
Thanks, Jeff. As I stated, I'm Matt Salad. I'm a project architect for Tecton Architects. I'm actually coming up on my 8th anniversary with the company next week. And a majority of that time has been spent working with Jeff on public safety facilities, including time at my previous firm before I came to Tecton. So it's a project type that we're very committed to and work almost exclusively on. And it's something that we really enjoy doing in groups of people that we really like working with. Not with us today, but also part of our project team is Rebecca Hopkins, who's another project architect with our firm. And Justin Hopkins. Justin Hopkins will be on with us in future meetings. He was sort of the key person in terms of programming the town offices and the Council on Aging. Sean Martin is our civil engineer with Fuss & O'Neill. And we also have working with us CES Consulting Engineering Services for our MEP and fire protection, O'Day Engineers for structures, and AM Fogarty is our cost estimator. We are a cohesive team. We work on just about every public safety project we do as one single team. So our consultant team does not change project to project. So you have the assurance that you have a good cohesion in the project team that you guys have hired. So a little brief overview. As everyone's aware, this is an aerial photograph of the town campus with the town offices in the middle, police station, and the Council on Aging Senior Center. We've been charged with doing a conditions assessment and feasibility study for all 3 buildings in the campus as a whole. Early on in this project, we identified adjacent properties as well and the potential for their incorporation into this campus because the site itself is so constrained, and we'll get into that as we discuss some of the existing conditions. For point of discussion this evening, we're going to be focusing predominantly on the police station itself. For those who have seen the draft report, and that's a draft, there's still more material to add to that as we go through this process. It's over 600 pages, so there's a lot of material to digest and unpack. So we're going to be taking an approach of introducing this to you in pieces so that you can get a better understanding. And I encourage any comment, feedback, and questions as we move forward because it is a lot of material. So again, the tasks that we've been working.
Hey, Matt, can I have you pause there?
Yep.
So Justine, somehow you shared your screen.
I don't know how I did that. I don't know how I did that. I was trying to see because I wasn't seeing any of the screen, so I was.
So if you want to click that there and then click stop.
Okay.
Yep. Awesome. Okay, Matt, you can resume if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, I am so sorry.
No, it's okay.
No problem.
No problem at all.
So some of the project goals and what we've been working from and what we're working towards. Again, we did a conditions assessment of all 3 buildings. We looked at the entire site as a whole to understand its traffic and pedestrian flow. We've met with key stakeholders, which
Matthew, excuse me. Matthew, it's Patrick. Excuse me. I'm sorry to jump in, but I have lost your presentation now. I don't know if.
You're right.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're.
Matt, you'll just have to share again.
Yep.
Perfect.
Thank you. Great.
So we've also met with key stakeholders from each department, representing all the different departments within the town offices, the Council on Aging, and the police department. That was for part of our programming exercise and understanding how each of the departments have evolved over the years and how they plan on working in the future, so we can project out exactly the size of each department and are able to make informed decisions on how we move forward with this process. And Jeff's going to touch a little bit further on that as we discuss the programming of the police facility. The ultimate goal is to produce conceptual designs and take these projects into a schematic design phase such that we can create a informed estimate that we can then take to town meeting and seek additional funding to move forward with these projects this fall. This is sort of a brief overview of the schedule. It's a little hard to read, so we'll zoom into some of the key milestones, but this sort of outlines the feasibility study up until fall town meeting, and then we hit phase 2 off and to the right, and that's sort of from fall town meeting, and that outlines the construction schedule for the police department as sort of our primary focus for this phase. But right now we're sort of at that middle milestone, which is moving into the schematic design, getting our estimate prepared, and bringing the building committee online. So we've done some upfront work that we're going to be going over, but we're taking a step back to make sure that you guys are all participating in our part of this process moving forward. So a little bit of where we've been. We came online early December. We interviewed in October, and we started working with the town in early December. From there, we sort of tackled the programming and existing site assessments around the same time. So that was during the winter. We were meeting with various departments, as well as having a team go through each building, analyze its structure, and get an understanding for where deficiencies are. There was a previous report and study done about 6 years ago, so we were able to use that to understand how the conditions of the facilities have tracked and the maintenance of those have gone over the past few years. And just a note to the town's building department and maintenance department is they've done a great job of maintaining these facilities. So moving forward from here, once we get through our schematic design and prepare our estimate, we sort of have this long phase of community outreach. We want to spend a lot of time making sure that whatever we come up with as a group is well communicated to the public, so that we have good support at fall town meeting, and that everybody is in a positive view of this project and an understanding of this process. And then again, moving forward with if we have a favorable vote at fall town meeting or in the future, we sort of track out through 2021, going through our construction document phase and bidding the project. And we'd anticipate for the police station project, probably an 18-month construction phase, because there's demolition that would go on along with that. So again, we just started early on looking at the site as a whole and trying to get an understanding and feel for the campus. Some of the adjacent properties we had looked at to the north of the site, there's that area with the two blue areas which are indicated as wetlands. That's owned by UMass, and there's been some discussion back and forth whether or not that property can be incorporated into ours. So early on, we were looking at the potential for constructing a new police facility on that property. But because of those blue areas, there's significant wetlands associated with that, and we'll get into that a little further in the existing conditions review. We've also looked at off to the west of the site plan as well, additional town-owned lands to incorporate into the site. Anybody that's been to the campus on a regular business day is well aware that the site is very tightly constrained, and there's not enough parking, and any expansion in the future is only going to grow that need. So we needed to address the current concerns and then looking down the road 30, 40, 50 years into the future to make sure that we're planning appropriately. So the existing conditions, again, just talking about the wetlands, you can lightly shaded in the green there. You can see that that doesn't quite match the initial depiction that we had on that site plan. So when we actually went out and surveyed and flagged the wetlands to get a better understanding, Fussin O'Neill combined forces with VHB under UMass's property. So we had two civil engineers working simultaneously on this because of the multiple properties and multiple owners. But the wetlands area grew, so some of our initial assumptions we weren't able to carry forward, and this has been incorporated into the conceptual design concepts that we have, and we'll discuss those further on. So since the focus of tonight's presentation is really the police department, we'll just briefly go over some of the existing conditions. The original building was constructed in 1971. It's masonry and wood frame construction with wood trusses. It was subsequently added onto in 1996. What happens with a lot of these vintage police stations is they don't meet a lot of the current building codes. The structural requirements and fire protection requirements of a public safety facility have been enhanced over the years because of their need to be in operations during the worst of circumstances. So the building code identifies these as what's considered a risk category 4 structure, and basically the seismic and wind loads for such a facility are enhanced above those of any other project type. So the existing facilities certainly isn't designed to those standards, but any current additions or renovations should certainly consider that. And then there's operational issues with the current building. Again, policing in public interface is not the same as it was in 1971. So we certainly couldn't have anticipated 40, 50 years ago how departments were going to operate and how communications and technology were going to grow. At the same time, the town of Shrewsbury was significantly smaller in 1970 than it is today. There's been exceptional growth over the past 50 years in the station, in its department. The department size has kept up with that need, but the station itself has not. So oftentimes these stations that you'll see 50 years ago are maybe 30% at the size that they really need to be today to manage all the different departments. So there's a very modest lobby. Some of the office spaces are very small. They're they've been outgrown by the department. The prisoner facilities. So this is the top left image is sort of the prisoner passageway. So that's where detainees are brought in, and then the cells themselves are in the bottom left corner. The right photo is the prisoner processing area. This is where intake happens. So when you bring somebody in off the street, this is where they're booked, fingerprinted. They do their breathalyzer test, and then they're brought into the cells. Modern cell design has come a long way. These are under the jurisdiction of the Department of Public Health. They have some very strict guidelines on anti-ligature requirements and safety requirements, as well as fresh air intake and air changes that go on with a lot of these facilities. So the bars on the doors, things like that, they don't meet the current standards. And again, with the lockers that are in the prisoner passageway, there's lots of sharp edges. There's lots of things that could be a risk to the officer or the detainee themselves. So trying to make these environments durable and safe for everybody is really important. And many modern police stations take that into consideration. So storage, a lot of storage that goes on in a police department is statutory. So a lot of the things need to be maintained for 20 years or indefinitely, like specific types of evidence, especially those for open cases. This department has certainly outgrown those storage needs. This isn't pack rat, hoarder storage. These are things and records that need to be maintained as part of the statutory requirements. And these are being kept in attics and basically any space that can be grabbed by the department. And these are wood frame structures and combustible areas. And these really need to be in secure, air controlled environments where they can be maintained properly for their duration. Staff facilities, dispatch. The department has simply outgrown their lockers. A Also, locker design has come a long way over the years. You can imagine an officer with a bulletproof vest on throughout a hot summer day and coming back. These locker rooms can be much like your child's hockey gym bag. So these lockers nowadays are actually ventilated. There's power for charging radios. We vent them to prevent any of that moisture and mold distribution that can occur over this equipment. So they're not just a locker for storing a couple of pieces of clothing. This is really where the patrol officers are really keeping all of their equipment for their day-to-day activities. Dispatch is really the lifeblood for the town. This is where all of your public safety personnel are dispatched from. They're taking calls from all over, including those for mutual aid from surrounding communities. The technology has grown. Again, understanding what 1971 was like compared to today, they couldn't have anticipated the number of computers and technology and controls that are going into this facility. A modern dispatch center for this type of town is going to have almost as much technology and server storage as one of your schools have at a 5 times larger building. So understanding and planning for a lot of that technology is critical. And then again, the safety of these dispatch areas, because they are the critical operations for when large scale weather events or civil unrest and things like that happen in the town. These need to remain operational. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to give an overview on the programming of the police station. And I'll mute myself.
Kevin, I do see on my clock that it is 6:49.
Jeff, if we can proceed, for 5 or 6 more minutes, and then we do need to wrap up because of a selectmen's meeting at 7 o'clock and those commitments. So we'll just tell everyone that after Matt goes through some more of the presentation, we're going to pause before the end, try to get everyone's availability for our next meeting, and then continue this discussion. Sorry that we had to schedule special meetings of the board, but we're trying to handle some special COVID related items. So please proceed for 5 more minutes or so, Jeff.
All right, so I'm going to do a very high level overview of the programming. In the document that was shared with you, you do have some of the programming information. Basically, when we create a program, we're trying to identify all of the different space needs that go into a building. So we want to create every room, every office, and what we're doing is creating a description. It not only includes the square footage of that based upon what we anticipate from the operations that are described to us, but it also includes significant components of design that will make that room functional. So if it needs security, if it needs a special HVAC system, if it needs a sink, all of those kinds of things we try to capture in the program. So the process is done by spending a lot of time, in this case at the police department, talking with the staff, with officers, trying to understand how you go about your operations. And understanding the operations is key to getting the programming right. So as we go, we talk a lot about how things are done in Shrewsbury. We spend a fair amount of time scribbling on the marker board to try and make sure that we understand exactly how functions flow. And then ultimately we derive that information into a few statements. The first one that you're looking at right here is sort of our space needs summary. That's the list of room names and their square footages. Following this up in your report, you have the room detail. And that talks about all of those special requirements that we learn about. It gets into detail about how many workstations, how much file storage, when we need security, when we need special HVAC. So all of that's included there. So this process takes a number of meetings to get through because there's a lot of information that we cover in it. The program is broken down into various sections. It starts with public dispatch, records, community training, and then on into the police department itself. One of the things that I want you to think about at a very high level as you start to review this information is that we think about police stations in terms of 3 population groups. There's the public, those are the visitors that come to see the station. There's the police officers, those are all the spaces that support their operations. And then there's the prisoners. And of course, the prisoners are the especially invited guests that come to visit the police station. It's very important that we think about where the interaction points between those 3 populations are and where the segregation points between those three populations are. When we program a police station, we're thinking about, okay, how do we make sure that you bring a prisoner securely in through a sally port, transfer them immediately into the prisoner processing area, and from there to the cells without ever interacting with a member of the public and without ever putting anybody else in the police department at risk. Imagine that you're transferring from the cruiser into the station and they decide that's the time that they're going to make a break for it, and they end up in a clerk's office. That's not an acceptable situation. So we program around those zones of the facility. Likewise, making sure that the public, many of you may have visited a police station in the past, and I know, unlike me, I visit police stations all the time and kind of like it because I make my life's blood out of this. But a lot of folks don't like going to the police station. They're very nervous about that interaction. And so we try to make sure that we're putting all of the functions that the public needs from an easily identifiable entrance. So they can come to the station, they know exactly where to go. When they walk into that lobby space, they can see the front desk, they can see the records office, they can see where restrooms are, they can see where meeting space. We make sure that we have private interview space. Imagine that you're coming to report a crime and you need to talk to an officer. Being able to go into a private meeting space and do that conversation is important. And likewise, there's other folks that visit the station who you may not want to hang out in that lobby with. So creating the opportunity for a little separation is important. So as you go through the program, we start right off the bat with that public space. It talks about some of that lobby space, the interview spaces that we have associated with that. We do have our desk officer and our restrooms. From the lobby, we have access to our dispatch center. Again, that's our main reporting station. That's the 24-hour operation that's there when you come to the station. Records is right off of that lobby space. We have access for records inquiries. If we need to get a copy of a record or file some information, we have access to that. We also have a room that we call the community training room. It's a multi-function space. It can be community meeting space. It can be town meeting space. It can be a training room for the police department. It can be an EOC. It's a multi-function room that's accessible right off of that public lobby. From there, we go into the patrol facilities, the offices and the workspaces that are necessary for the patrol officers, the traffic department, up into the investigative bureau, and ultimately to the department administration. Going from there, we have our staff facilities, those, the locker rooms, the lunchrooms, the fitness areas, the training, the physical training spaces that support the operations. We have our property and evidence. This is important stuff in a police station. You got to keep that property and evidence under secure facilities. It's very important to protect the integrity of evidentiary materials. And so there's a lot of standards. The accreditation standards define some of the security measures that we need to take in the design of those spaces. And then, of course, we did talk about the prisoner processing area and the detention facilities that go along with it. And there is, by the way, in that prisoner processing area, you'll see that sally port that we talked about, which accommodates 2 cruisers. It also gives the ability to bring an ambulance into that so that if you have a situation, you can bring an ambulance in, open the doors, and move a stretcher into it. Beyond that, we've got some vehicle storage facilities. And then, of course, those services that make a building function, custodial closets, mechanical spaces, and then, of course, vertical circulation. We are anticipating a 2-story building at this point. We do need an elevator to make sure that we meet the ADA requirements. And then we have some additional outside facilities, a carport for cruisers to keep the snow off of them so that they're ready to respond at all times. And then some storage facilities, some bulk storage and some canine facilities. Oh, did I hit 5 minutes? I went through a lot.
You did well. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Matt. Could you give us a sense of what else you had to present, and then we'll have to pick it up at the next meeting?
Yeah,
Sure.
Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, part of what we were going to review is just some of the conceptual floor plans that we've developed with the department, which I believe you guys all have a PDF of. One thing you will note is when you compare sort of the floor plans of the program is there's a few additional conference room spaces off of the main lobby. Those are public conference rooms that we have added at the town's request as public access, not part of the police program itself. So when you compare the apples to apples, that's something additional you'll see. And then we also had the conceptual master plan of the campus as a whole that shows how all these pieces are going to fit together.
Mr. Pitney, as I had mentioned, I'm sorry to have to cut this short.
All right, understandable. So I guess what we need is a meeting date. I don't know what we're looking at. Are we looking at a week or 2 weeks or?
Yeah, I would like to, suggest that we try to meet again before the end of the month of June and then get on a regular monthly schedule and proceed through there.
Okay, who would you like me to coordinate that with?
Well, we can certainly coordinate everyone's availability through our office, so we can reach out to everyone after this meeting and work with the consulting team to get us on a consistent night moving forward.
Okay, very good. Why don't we do that? Then we'll wait your email for availability. And in the meantime, I would just ask everybody to think about whether they're either A, interested in being vice chair, or B, have somebody they would like to nominate that you think would do a good job and is interested. And number two, the presentation that Matthew and Jeff mentioned, take a few minutes, go through them. I know I have several questions already, but take some time to absorb it in preparation for the next meeting so that all the questions can be asked and answered. Okay. Anything else, anybody?
Mr. Pitney, we'll just make sure that we don't have a hard stop, at the next meeting, so we can continue to proceed through the police station and to the rest of the work that the team has done over the last few months and be able to move forward from there.
Very good. Thank you, everybody.
So we'll just need a motion to adjourn and a roll call vote.
Oh, thank them. I'm out of practice. Yes. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And we have to do a roll call vote, correct?
Yeah, if you'd like me to call the roll for you, I can, or you can.
Would you please, sir?
Sure. Mr. DiPaolo?
Yes.
Ms. Lass?
Yes.
Mr. Baldinger?
Yes.
Ms. Luke?
Yes.
Lieutenant Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Collins? Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Pitney?
Yes.
Mr. Morrow?
Yes.
And we are adjourned.
Thank you. I have taken copious notes, so I'll be more prepared next meeting.
All right. Thank you all. We appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you all.
All right.